Hello, I'm J. Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the November 18, 2018 edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. Today we're in James chapter 4, verse 6, where it says that the Lord resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. This is interesting because there's an awful lot in the Bible about humility and about the proud. Jesus clearly did not like the arrogance of the Pharisees, for example, spoke very harshly about and to them. And whereas, with some other sinners, he was much more gentle. And so, the Lord has a lot to say in the Bible about pride. We all know, pride goeth before a fall and all of that. But let's talk about this in James chapter 4, because, James, as we have said before on this program, is one of those books written by the half-brother of Jesus, the leader of the Jewish community in the early church. And if anybody understood that your actions needed to replicate and be consistent with your statements and your belief, it was James. And that's what he's emphasizing in his letter to the Jewish Christians dispersed throughout the ancient world at that time. Now, what I found when I was doing my study on this verse, I found very interesting. The word resist in the Greek actually is a military term, and it means to align yourself in military formation, as in you're about to be engaged in a military experience. And, I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of God getting himself ready in a military way to deal with me. That is not a happy situation. Now, of course, as one of my Sunday school students pointed out very wisely today, James is speaking to Christians. So when when he is saying that God is resisting the proud, that could be and often is a Christian. And so whatever he's doing, whatever this getting ready in a military fashion is, we know that it's ultimately for our good. It's not to destroy us, but rather to bring us back in line. But it is interesting that this military term is used, because I think it points out to us the seriousness with which God takes pride. And yet, on the other hand, we're given the contrast, as we so often are in the Bible, when we're given a blessing and a curse, a warning, and then the blessing. We're told that God gives grace, which means goodness in action. So goodwill put in action to the humble. A lot of people struggle with what humility is, and we were talking about this in class today. And the best explanation I've ever heard was from C.S. Lewis, the great 20th century English Christian apologist. And he said that humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking about yourself less and more about others. He said that if you think it's about trying to think less of yourself, then you can get in ridiculous things, like the pretty woman trying to convince herself that she's ugly, or the smart man trying to think himself a fool. And it doesn't work. It doesn't feel real, because it's not. But it's not about that. It's about being preoccupied with other things outside of yourself, something bigger than yourself, other people, God, etc. And when you're focused on something outside of yourself, then you have a tendency not to be too proudful. So this is something that we have to struggle with. It is in our human condition to be very self-focused. There's survival instinct in us, if nothing else. So to some extent, it's understandable, but it is a great temptation for sin. And God is trying to keep us on that straight and narrow. He will resist us. He will make sure that we're knocked down a peg, so to speak, when we need it. But remember, for those that have their eye on Him and other people, humility will be less of a temptation, and then we will see His grace, His goodness in action. I'm J. Lenora Bressler. Visit me on the next edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. Have a great day.